The first session is about UCP, or the Universal Commerce Protocol. Yeah, welcome. Come on in. So please welcome Aaron, David, Vic, and Daniel up to the stage.
Thanks for coming, everyone. So who here is familiar with agentic commerce? Who's heard that term before? A lot of hands. Awesome. And who's familiar with the Universal Commerce Protocol, UCP? Bunch of hands. Awesome. Cool. Well, we're going to do a quick run through and tell you a little bit about agentic commerce, UCP, why it exists, sort of why we built it, how it's being used, and how you can use it as well, and sort of expand a little bit of what you know about agentic commerce. And if you're a builder, it'll give you a little bit of background to get started in building. Before we get started, though, we'll do a quick set of hellos. So I'm Aaron. I'm a director of product here at Shopify.
I'm Victoria. I'm a senior staff product manager. I work on checkout, I work on agentic, and sit on the tech council of the Universal Commerce Protocol.
Hey, I'm Daniel. I work as a part of Payments Foundations on the engineering side. Also a member of the Tech Council representing payments.
And hello, my name is David. I'm one of the engineers here. I'm also working on the agentic commerce stuff that we've got going on. And I've been focusing mostly on identity linking as of recent.
All right. Oof. So for a generation, commerce hasn't really changed. Everything has been behind a search bar, a product grid. You browsed, you filtered, and then you just decided. But now that's changing, and buyers are really just asking. They're saying, hey, I want to find a birthday present for David. And they expect that something on the other side is comparing the price, figuring out something about you, figuring out what exactly you want to buy, and then even acting on your behalf. And so this is very different. It's a different kind of life cycle than we've seen previously with commerce, and it's a lot higher intent. We're even seeing like the buyers that are coming through this funnel, even if they end up on storefront, which I'm sure a lot of you have when you're searching through these tools, much higher intent buyer who's like, okay, yes, I know exactly what I want because they've done that pre-research. But there's always a but, right? So we've seen a lot of issues with this as well. It's not so simple to really just pull down all the products on the internet and surface them through AI. So how many people have bought something using an AI agent? Okay, how many people have tried to buy something using an AI agent?
Or at least had a conversation with an agent trying to narrow something down.
Right.
I'd imagine virtually every hand in the room is up. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm sure most of you have seen then that you're going to run into a few issues. And there's some common pain points here that we've been, figuring out how are we going to solve this. I've seen I think the initial time I tried to buy something with AI, I was shipped the wrong size item and maybe even the wrong item. And that was like, okay, what's happening here? Often you might find, oh, this is a picture, but it's not the right picture because it's pulling from a different source. There's a lot of web scraping, so you're getting stale data. And there's not really one consistent, authoritative, this is definitely the product that you're gonna get. So it's really a mixed experience.
And so if you were to just take an agent today and say, go buy something, what would the agent do? It would fire up a web browser and it would start going around the internet, trying to figure it out and try to buy. And when it does that, that's where when humans use the internet and go to buy things, us humans, when we're going to do it, we actually work through many issues and many things that are required to get a purchase done. For example, login. Right? That's a standard thing that you're a human as you're going through and buying and you don't realize it, or CAPTCHAs or things like that. And so when agents start doing it, that's where the process for an agent to do that can start becoming really brittle. If an agent is running into many of these things, especially when you look at the entirety of the internet and the entirety of all the things to buy. And so these are some of the challenges that exist within agentic commerce that we took a look at and said, okay, well, how do we make this better?
Yeah, and that's not even getting into checkout and payments and how is my agent actually going to take my credit card and put it into a checkout, and do I really trust them to do that?
Yeah, exactly to that point, right? I think payments is one of the most interesting and kind of core to the piece of commerce that we need to bring to the agentic world as well. So if you think about it, like I'm sure all of you playing around with like OpenClaw may have tried, giving your agent like access to card information. And when we think about the space, like we want to come up with the right way to bring it securely and do this through like tokenization patterns when it comes to commerce and payments. As well, like this is a broader space than just simply cards too, right? Like there are tons of fintech companies out there constantly innovating on like the different forms of payment instruments that you can use, thinking in the space of like crypto, LPMs, all of this stuff. Like it is an industry that constantly evolves and is constantly localized. The other side of this too is like trust and risk. An agent showing up at your doorstep, is it Bob's homegrown personal agent, or is this a malicious card tester that's showing up at your door and trying to make a purchase? So yeah, this is definitely the side we've been thinking about deeply when it comes to actually completing these checkouts through agents and not just even searching.
And so when you take a look and you think about agentic commerce is actually this massive term for a whole bunch of different steps that exist within it. We've broken it down into 4 like big buckets, but as we're running through it and we're going to show you a really cool demo, you can sort of think about it in these different buckets of like the intent. So how does the agent figure out what it is that you're looking for? How does the agent then help you with making a decision, and how can you make that decision correctly? Then permissioning, how do you actually have the agent do the purchasing? And it's not just you and the agent, but there's merchants, there's card networks, there's other parties involved that are actually all part of this permission flow that then run through checkout to ultimately finalize an order. So agentic commerce is like a really simple term for a really complex flow.
So lots of problems. With anything, we started thinking about this, and this has been solved before in different ways, right? If you're going to integrate against many different merchants, you often have to build like 10 different implementations, as no cart and checkout integration, no platform does this the same way. And we've been kind of getting along with bespoke integrations, and now I think agents are forcing our hand here. It's not the first time, like of course commerce is on many different surfaces, but agents is the first time we're really saying, like maybe we could do this better. And I mean, this is a smart group of people. We've all seen how we solved this in the past. We have HTTP, we have OAuth, but there's never been a protocol solution for commerce. And so that layer has always been missing. And what we built with the Universal Commerce Protocol is that layer. So you can think about it as this like generic way of doing commerce across the internet. And it's modeled in a way that regardless of who you're integrating with, Shopify, other big players, we're all kind of speaking the same language. And so the protocol becomes the language of commerce. And I think this is like a huge moment and a major implications across the whole industry, and probably not only agents as well.
And this is, as we talk about it, we're obviously talking about the rails of commerce and UCP from the standpoint of some of the consumer products that you're using today. But these are also rails that you as individual developers and builders can use and leverage. So as you're thinking about what you're building and you're thinking about like if you're bringing commerce into experiences, like think about this talk as something that you can consume and use as well.
Yeah, because as we heard, like this is live. You can start using this today. There's many integrations built on top of the Universal Commerce Protocol already. And we'll dig into a little bit more of the spec so you can see what to expect.
Yeah, so just to take a second and walk you guys through a little bit of like the high level thinking about UCP. So the Commerce Protocol, exactly as described, it's like that open language for how businesses and agents should approach commerce. So fundamentally, it's about capabilities, cart, checkout, order, and how do you actually advertise that through something like a static well-known? How do you actually negotiate that intersection? What version, what set of capabilities are you guys actually going to leverage? And then eventually getting to completing that checkout, right? Going through a form of an open payment handler that can advertise, are we using like Google Pay, Shop Pay, et cetera? And how do you actually do that kind of secure tokenization over the wire? So that's what UCP is really bringing to the table, is a simple discovery mechanism of your capabilities, extensions, payment handlers, and leading you to that resolved checkout.
So at Shopify, we could have said, hey, we're going to build like a really great commerce agent. And definitely we will, and we have. But we're focusing more on the primitive side. So Shopify is a platform. UCP is a way to integrate with Shopify. And like I said, with a lot of other implementations as well. And so we took a bet that said, look, we're going to build the tools. And so these are the tools that make up the protocol. We have MCP servers for cart, checkout, catalog and discovery, the post-order solution. So everything is agent first. And these are exactly what you need to just like start building with it and start putting commerce into whatever integration you're building. The Shopify catalog. So Aaron talked about there's different stages of the protocol. So the Shopify catalog, or just the catalog, so it's a UCP capability. Capability is the way that we talk about the protocol, as in basically like a chunk of the system that has a job to do. So for this one, it's discovery. And what you're going to get with catalog is two things. So the spec models a per merchant catalog, which is going to be structured data that you can use to do like, hey, I'm looking for blue shoes, and it's going to give you like the 10 first offers that are most relevant. So there's a lot of focus on relevance. We use a lot of our own kind of signals and LLM magic to determine like what that relevance is to the person that's calling. So a lot of personalization there. We also have a global catalog. So with the spec, we integrate with what's called an extension. So this is a Shopify-specific global catalog. For me, like this is where a lot of the real magic is. So this is like over millions of merchants and billions of products. You put in that one query, and we're going to search all of Shopify. And you can do this. And so when we do that search, we kind of fan out and find the thing that's most relevant, and we'll group offers together as well. So if you said, hey, I'm looking for this specific shoe, but maybe it's sold by multiple folks, like we're going to give you those offers so that you can make sure you're giving the person on the other side like the best deal depending on what they're looking for. You can also do a lot of filtering. So if you want some kind of custom catalogs, depends on what you're building. So you're building something very niche and specific, you can get into that with basically like, think of it as a prompt for the catalog that you get to save.
So if we think about this from the world that existed before UCP and the world that exists now. So before UCP, if you had your agent and you said, hey, I'd like to go and buy, I don't know, a bottle of water. Your agent would have to go and search the internet for bottles of water, browse a bunch of different websites to try to pull different options for you, and then present them to you. So that's pre. And every agent would have to figure out how to browse the internet. Every agent would have to figure out how to get through all of the different things and the different configurations of different websites. You know, everybody's got a website configured differently. And then the agent would have to figure out how to parse that and bring it back to you. All very quickly, all in a way that is token efficient, right? Because otherwise it wouldn't be possible to actually present the experiences. So that whole stack of challenges was then replaced with catalog. So within UCP, catalog is that single set of rails that lets you now bring intent to products. So we'll go to the next step.
Yeah, just one more thing on that before we move on. Aaron, you mentioned every merchant has a different way of basically setting up their shop. And this is true like across the whole industry. The way that we merchandise is often very different. Some people choose to put, say, like the size in the title or do like a bunch of things because on the front end, they can manipulate it. And so far that's been acceptable. You can do a bunch of magic on the front end and make it look the way that you want, maybe for SEO reasons or other. But now agents are reading that, getting very confused. And so with the catalog, it gives you that standardization so you don't have to try to do all the configuration, do all the title matching and kind of regex your way through. This is just going to give you that out of the box.
So step one, catalog, we sort of talked about this, but it makes all the product data really simple for agents to consume and bring forward so that when you're in that interactive experience or you're building products in those interactive experiences for users, users can have a delightful experience of finding products. But then what?
The next step up is of course personalizing all of these things. But as you've surely seen, if you've been using Claude or Gemini, the different merchants don't know who you are, right? You might have an existing customer relationship with them, but they can't show you your discounts, they can't show you any special offers they have for you. So to support that, we've been thinking a lot about this, and identity becomes that key link between like the agent, the merchant, and yourself. And so if we can do what we call identity link, we'll be able to have the merchant know that on the other side of the agent, there's actually a human, there's a David, and he's got these interests, or we sent him this marketing email, or he's got this discount waiting for him. So those are going to be the mechanisms that we think are going to be really critical to get those deeply personalized experiences. Things like being able to say, like, hey, I placed this order last week, what's the status of it? Or having your agent buzz you and say, like, hey, there seems to be a problem, the merchant has reached out, what would you like me to do about that?
And just to bring it back to the before UCP and post UCP, you can imagine identity before UCP. You'd have your agent going and trying to figure out how to log into all of these different websites to go and figure out if you're what the price is for a product for you or where your products are. So again, bringing catalog, UCP, identity, UCP, and then
And just one other really nerdy thing. So I work on a lot of flash sales, and a really interesting use case that I'm seeing with more and more folks that are integrating is basically an identity-powered flash sale gate. So if I want to make sure that specifically humans are getting this item because of resellers, or if I want to specifically choose who those humans are, I can use something like identity linking with a personal agent to be this is your key into the door. And so I think that's pretty cool.
Exactly. It's the best trust signal that you can bring to the table at the end of the day, especially when it comes to payments.
All right, so checkout. Checkout is super complicated. I can attest to this. I've worked on checkout for years. We've got hundreds of engineers working on checkout, and it doesn't seem to get simpler. There's lots of different features that make it tricky for agents to have to navigate. If you think about how complex commerce is, anything from split shipping to buy now, pay later, installments, validations, even think about how will my agent navigate an ID requirement because I'm purchasing a age verified product. These are all tricky to even think about an agent going through, but also to model at a protocol level. And so checkout becomes the one area where today I think we're getting pretty good at the discovery flow in agents, but I think checkout is still kind of lagging behind. And a lot of that is because of this, because this part is hard. There's also, of course, all the different compliance and PCI issues that you'd have to cover if you're building your own checkout, like CCPA, really just so many different compliance pieces that if you use a hosted checkout like Shopify, that kind of comes out of the box. So how do we think about checkout with agentic now? Well, of course, we have tools like we talked about. So there's a bunch of different MCP tools for completing checkouts when it can be completed over the API. And then we also have something called the embedded checkout protocol. So who loves acronyms? It's another one. So ECP. So the embedded checkout protocol is a way of interacting with a web frame that gives you events back and forth that tells you where you are in that checkout journey. And so for whatever reason, if a merchant or a business has something that just cannot be completed with that agent, we've built into the protocol a signal that just says requires buyer input. And then you can use this embedded checkout protocol to be okay, pop the page, go through it. When it closes, I still get my custom thank you page. And this is the escape hatch of all escape hatch for all of the real complexity as we continue to iterate on the protocol.
And so, again, before UCP, you'd have an agent going off trying to navigate different checkout forms, each of them different, each of them with all of their own privacy and security built in to try to prevent all of the different bad actors from doing things on those checkouts. With UCP, your agent just has to speak UCP. And then the agent and over the UCP protocol with the merchant can figure out how this checkout should be done and complete a checkout.
Yeah, that's the thing. Good bot, bad bot, right? A lot of what we're building with personal agents tends to appear in commerce like it's a bad actor. And so you're getting hit by CAPTCHAs, you're getting hit by other safety mechanisms. And with the protocol, at least it's a standardized way where you're not going to be stuck at the gate.
But with that, we're here to take a look at what we're building. So we've got a little demo to show.
Ready for the demo?
Yes.
Let's see here. So just give me a second here to get it.
Like any demo, it's going to be a live demo. So
yeah, so you can see this here. So this is Shopee, the personal shopper. It is not OpenClaw, but it is close to. And the idea here is that it's a generic agent harness. It's been given a skill. So it looks like this. And this skill will help the agent learn about UCP. So we haven't actually coded, so into Shopee, we haven't actually coded UCP direct integrations. We've just said hey, you're a personal shopper. Here's where you can learn about UCP. This is what the typical rough purchasing guide looks like. And so What you can do with this agent is you can ask it for advice. It will learn how to search things from the catalog. It will learn, like, it will know how to check out things.
And so if the agent knows how to talk UCP, the agent can now talk UCP to any merchant that supports UCP.
Yeah.
And so you can see how this is where the protocols start becoming really valuable, sort of like HTTP over the website. Your web browser talks to HTTP, can talk to anyone, any server that talks to HTTP.
So let's kick off a purchase here. So I'm going to show a few different things. So we mentioned the global catalog, right, where we've curated all of the content from all of our merchants. So let's start by looking for a backpack. So hey, I'm looking for a backpack here. A blue one in canvas. Can you
Good
please
choice.
help? Sorry?
Good choice.
Good choice, excellent. Can you please help me find one? And so what you'll see here, I'll describe a little bit what we're seeing on the screen. So you can see the first step here is that it's actually reading the UCP 101 guide, which I wrote earlier on. And so this is just, if you go to ucp.dev, you'll find all of the specifications there. This is just a curated or condensed version of that. It's doing some of the things that we need from the skill here. So it needs to go and figure out its own IP in order to make calls.
Seriously fabulous choices.
And then you can see it does this last step here, which is like search the global catalog. So with the knowledge, so I haven't taught Shopee how to do this. It taught itself as I was talking here. So now it knows how UCP works. It knows how to search a global catalog. It found the global catalog endpoint from Shopify. And it's performed a search. I'll scroll down here. And these are the search results that it has. And we spoke about like the fidelity of information. So this is sourced directly from the catalog. And so we can ask it details about stuff as well. Tell me the details of the first bag. And so in UCP, there are various tools that allow you to do things like dig into the details of a product and learn more about it. And so it's learned from the UCP spec, okay, I can actually go and look up a product, and these are the details that it's curated. So no more web scraping, it's high fidelity data, it's well organized, it's got, if there are different variants with colors and stuff like that, it will know that. And so there's no more guesswork on behalf of the agent. So, and you can also imagine that if you're an integrator and you integrate directly with UCP, that this would be much faster. You could build out very fancy UIs. This is just a pretty trivial UI. I'll do one merchant-specific search as well. So please find me fridges from JB Hi-Fi in Australia. Sorry, I shouldn't have a question mark here. So here, Shopee is off. Searching the global catalog. This is not deterministic. Anyone who's had an OpenClaw will know this. We'll see if it figures out that it can search. So filtering specific fridges. And you can see all of the requests that are going on here. There's some errors that it's trying to resolve. And here we are. It switched to Australian here, right? So it can do this. It wasn't as deterministic as I was hoping. I was hoping that it was going to go and hit JB Hi-Fi's website directly and search their catalog. It can do that. But let's go and demonstrate what a purchase looks like. So let's do that. Please buy AquaGlow.
And so again, before UCP, this would have been agents running around all over the internet, trying to pull up different web pages to pull the info. And today it just speaks UCP.
Yeah. So here's a good example of this capabilities that we mentioned. So I asked it to buy from my test shop. This is shopdave.ca. I've got a shower head there. But it doesn't know what my test shop supports in terms of capabilities. And so as Daniel was saying earlier, a lot of the discovery around the protocol is about finding these capabilities. So the agent is actually looking up in real time, hey, I'm hitting this well-known UCP endpoint, grabbing all of the data, learns that there is a catalog endpoint, learns how that you can check out in this store.
And if you want to know if a merchant speaks UCP, all you need to do is go to that .wellknown/UCP endpoint, and you'll see whatever the merchant can talk.
Yeah. Because I don't have a credit card set up here, there are two ways you can purchase. Either you can do a handover to a web browser, and so this is what I've got set up here. So I can finish the checkout by going directly. I just follow the link, and everything is pre-filled. My payment method, the product I was looking for, my delivery address, and all of that. So that's something, a benefit of UCP and the checkout response. The other way of checking out is to perform a headless checkout where we don't hand over to the web browser. And so in my test store, I also have a pair of socks. Do we have a pair of socks to show?
Maybe we should try to buy like 100 socks for the audience?
Maybe 100 socks would buy us. Okay, let's try that.
Oh, hey, look at those socks.
Can you
Sock
buy
delivery.
me 100 socks? 100 Outweigh socks from shopdave.ca. And let's see what it figures out. So, like, this agent obviously doesn't know what an Outweigh sock is, so it probably has to look it up in the catalog. I'm hoping it does that. Yeah, look at that. Searching for the socks. Creating a checkout session for 100 socks.
Has anyone here bought 100 socks before?
No. Neither have we.
Oh,
This was not
there.
planned.
Okay, so let's see what happened.
Oh,
Oh no, I had an inventory issue.
Well, some of you are getting socks today.
So you can see here, it's completed the checkout. It's given me an order reference. If I go to my Shopify admin here, and I search for my socks here, we'll see if this order showed up.
order 1319.
1319. Do you happen to have a counter behind you there? And so this is order 1319. It contains 50 socks. And so that was a completely headless checkout. Wanted to say a few words about the way that we'll be handling payments in the future. So,
Yeah, so in that well-known, like one of the things you would find if you look at any example one today, you can find, for example, like Google Pay and Shop Pay, both being usable as stored credentials. So for example, if we had set up in this demo, I'm actually doing authentication through Shop, we will be able to leverage that stored Shop token to actually do this purchase. Same thing with the Google Pay, the ability to access like the stored Google Wallet, especially if you go through things like embedded checkout flows.
yeah. I will say also that you noticed here that I didn't enter my name and my phone number and my address. It just figured it out. That's because I've performed an identity linking session ahead of this. So the agent, when it's talking to the UCP endpoint using the identity linking capability, already has pre-filled all of this information. So it makes it really streamlined, and the payment stuff will show up there as well soon.
Super cool. Well, now we've got a few extra socks that we'd love to give out to everyone at the end of all the talks upstairs during the reception.
Cool.
Cool. So there's a lot that happened under the hood there to do something that sounds as simple as buy a pair of socks, but to have an agent do it securely, know who you are, do all of the payment credentials securely back to the merchant, complete the transaction, provide an order confirmation, and then delivery, shipping, is pretty incredible.
Yeah, and it's a massive amount of work from so many different parties, right? Like, I think one of the main things we want to call out here is that this is an open protocol being worked on by tons of different e-commerce partners in the industry. And as well, we're really interested in seeing you folks too contribute to it. So I would definitely suggest checking out like ucp.dev after this and seeing, you know, are there capabilities that you're interested in seeing brought to the spec? Are there things that you want to see done normatively across commerce? This is the way that you can bring that to the table.
And so one of the really cool things about UCP is that UCP started with shopping. That was sort of the initial version of UCP that got announced. But because UCP is this common protocol for commerce, UCP has already expanded into food and lodging. So if you look at UCP and you're interested in building any sort of things around commerce with personal agents, I highly recommend you take a look at it and be part of the community.
All right. With that, yeah, definitely start building with it. The one product that we didn't mention, I just want to do a quick call out. When David had the checkout up on the screen, we also have a product called Checkout Kit. You can think of it as an abstraction or a layer over embedded checkout protocol. And you can use this for any type of mobile that you're building to basically embed the checkout if it requires the escalation flow. And you can also do this on web in some kind of like pop-up or modal, so it's a little bit more streamlined for your agent.
So we wanted to leave a few minutes for questions, actually. We want to keep this interactive and make sure that you can get started building. So yeah, go ahead.
Is this associated with a specific merchant, or is this like, like a Shopify interface where it's like an Amazon interface where I can go and buy anything?
Yeah, so the question was, is this for a specific merchant or is it open for anything? Do you wanna-
Yeah, so it's definitely open. It's an open protocol outside of just Shopify. And even at that, like for the merchants that are on Shopify, we basically set up the API endpoints that you would need and the well-known. But any merchant, anything kind of across the web can use this.
So like if I have a shop, I can have this interface for myself?
Definitely. Yep. So if you have your store through Shopify, you just get this out of the box without having to do anything. If you are using a different platform, you can set up your own well-known and go through having to create all the tools and everything yourself.
Yeah, every Shopify merchant gets UCP and everything that Shopify supports on UCP for free automatically.
Was there any consideration with regards to prompt injection in UCP?
Great question. So UCP is really the fundamental schemas by which you want to complete commerce. Like truthfully, there isn't necessarily a concern directly in UCP for this because UCP is just the layer that agents are going to leverage, right? Like prompt injection is a concern for the agents and the agent builders, but UCP itself is just simply like this set of schemes, how do we explore a catalog? How do you actually start a checkout? That is all methodical and specific. It is not necessarily operating over like natural language. Like that is an abstraction layer above UCP.
Can it handle order tracking or refunds or disputes?
It can certainly handle order tracking. So if you look at the UCP specification today, it has an order capability. And so as soon as you saw me complete the order there, you'll get an order number or reference back that you can then go and look up orders using. There's also support for webhooks, which is like a way where you can get a push update later on in the flow. So that works, and I think there's a lot of work going on right now into what we call post-purchase actions. So things like if I want to make an exchange or a refund or a return or whatever it might be. But that's all under work right now. Did you want to add anything there?
No, that's perfect. Yeah, just it's underway, and I assume more will come in the space.
You touched on token efficiency early on, but with the usage of the protocol itself, has there been any viable metrics in terms of different usage of token? Where essentially, as a user, you can mitigate any guardrails you would have to put into place for token efficiency.
Could I just repeat? I've rephrased that to read it back to you. So you're asking about if the token usage of using UCP is a consideration?
Efficiency. Has there been any metrics in terms of difference?
Like as a comparison to like the web scraping examples that we called.
I don't know that we've done anything like that, but if you just compare it to like the sheer amount of information you need to scrape intuitively without having done the analysis, I would say that this is a magnitude more efficient at least. You don't have to scrape through a bunch of HTML that you don't know what it is, or you don't have to deal with all of the styling. You get pretty precise API responses with clearly annotated, this is the description, this is the header, or sorry, this is the title, this is the variant, colors, all of that. So it's a very information-dense format compared to web pages.
Yeah, we've also really integrated, say you're going to get an error, your agent doesn't have to do a lot to figure out how to show that to the buyer. So very efficient on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question about discovery. The current discovery are driven mostly by advertisement, especially performance advertisement, where the Google, Meta, Amazon capture a huge chunk of the value. So I'm curious, what are you guys' thoughts on where that is going, especially on advertisement, and also, apparently you don't have advertisement in your catalog right now, but yeah, what's the future like?
Yeah, our focus is really on making the products available for agents to go and use and consume, and then it's on all of the different agent builders to go and build all of the different experiences that they want to build. And so I think there's going to be a multitude of different experiences that are built, but our focus is really on making that product data available, structured, easy to access for those agents so that they can then deliver it.
2 more questions? Sorry, I'm going to take somebody on the edge.
What kind of rate limits are in place for UCP? You guys mentioned the web scraping approaches and some of their downsides like CAPTCHAs and blocks. What rate limits are in place for UCP so that it's not abused for maybe scraping tens of thousands of product pages using the protocol and basically inherently avoiding those rate limits and such?
Yeah, it's a great question. So UCP rate limits for Shopify is built on a model of trust. So the more that you're kind of identifying yourself, the higher your limits are going to be. You can hit all of our endpoints anonymously, and you'll get like the lowest tier of rate limits. I don't know the number off the top of my head. It's going to give you enough to basically like play around, kind of do like some types of searching, but it's not going to be something where you could then be pulling at scale. If you have a signature where we can say, okay, I know this is you, you've signed the request, then you're in the next bucket, and this is all in the docs as well. And then there's a third, which you basically mint a JOT token, and we can kind of give you additional rates if you are hitting those rates. So we have a process to request higher rate limits depending on what you're building. And at that point, I want to see what it is you're building, and then we can definitely have a conversation about higher rate limits. The goal with the rate limiting here is never to get in the way of what you're building. It purely is just protect the platform and kind of have that ceiling, because inevitably we need that. But it's not something that you should be hitting. And if it is, let's chat.
Hey, thanks for hosting this, by the way. This is more of a philosophical question, but given that AI agents are getting better, do you think they'll ever be autonomous, like self-sovereign market participants? And in that case, like if they don't have a SIN card or an ability to pay taxes, like how do they actually conduct commerce? And would like UCP or something be able to facilitate that?
I don't know sort of on the philosophical side, but I think on the protocol side, the protocol is built to allow a merchant to decide how they transact with a buyer. And so from that standpoint, like if the merchant decides that they want to transact over some way, some system, some method of commerce with a buyer, then the protocol can define that, spec it, define how it's used, and then as long as they both understand it, both the buyer understands it and the merchant understands it and they agree, then transactions can happen over UCP. Perfect. We'll take one last question there and then, yeah, go for it. I can't speak for any of the other companies, but I think if you take a look at UCP is an open protocol, everything's open with it. I think you can see sort of like the engagement across like different parties, and I think it's obviously an exciting protocal for all of those other companies.
Yeah, definitely browse the open RFCs and PRs, and I think you'll see what you're looking for.
Yeah, as well, there are published minutes from the TC chats as well, so I'd suggest taking a look there. There's tons of representatives from all kinds of e-commerce companies participating there. I think you'll definitely see the enthusiasm maybe you're looking for.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron, David, Victoria, and Daniel. That was great. There's a couple of Shopify-specific kind of build principles that were discussed very quickly at the beginning that you might have missed. One is build the platform. It's kind of extract from the product what the platform is going to be, and I think that's a lot of where UCP comes from and looking for the opportunity to expose this. The other is taking a complex topic like commerce. We hide a lot behind commerce. We hide things like fulfillment, inventory, payments, catalogs, hide all of this complexity like identity, and put it into a simple protocol that you can use. And one of the things that I love about this is it's available for everybody to build. So this is something that's you can sign up for. You can work on your own types of commerce experience today using this protocol. And like they were talking about, this is much more efficient than the scraping method that we had seen. And certainly that was used in production. Like people were doing that because it was the way to do it. But now we've got this much more specific way in which to query for products. And I can't discount things like the search relevance and what you saw coming up in that simple demo that they were able to show and build. It's really a powerful capability.